Angelina Jolie barely moves, and that's exactly why people just can't look away. Most women think that feminine attractiveness is characterized by being very expressive, smiling a lot, reacting a lot, moving a lot. But that's not the only way of being femininely attractive and powerful. Angelina Jolie's presence is built on something very different. In this video, I'm breaking down Angelina Jolie's body language patterns, and we will also understand how we as normal women can apply those body language patterns in our own feminine presence. I have promised you some time ago that I'm going to do an analysis video of Angelina Jolie, and here I am. Unfortunately, the last 2 weeks I've been a little sick and you can still hear it in my voice. And that's why I had a lot of time to rewatch some movies. So I watched some of Angelina Jolie's movie, among others Salt and The Tourist. And I have to say that The Tourist is the perfect movie with regard to observing and analyzing Angelina Jolie's feminine body language and presence, and to understand what makes her so attractive and so alluring with regard to her body language. The first thing that we can see, her walk, of course. So she exits this door with a very upright posture. She has a calm demeanor in her upper body and minimal movement in her face. Her gaze is soft but controlled. She is kind of aware of the space around her. And her walk, the good thing is, the two men that are observing her when she is exiting this door, they even zoom on her hips, or better said, on her backside. But that allows us to take a very close look to her particular hip sway. And what I observe here is a very clear hip swivel. She doesn't sway her hips in an extreme way, but because of this hip swivel that I have also explained in one of my more technical videos, this makes her walk very feminine. And she doesn't have to exaggerate her hips. She still looks very feminine when she walks. Her steps are medium large, but what makes her walk so elegant and sophisticated is especially her upper body and her hands positioning. If we look at her upper body, it is very upright. It is very calm, very controlled. She doesn't move a lot in her upper body, and that's why her whole appearance kind of has something classy and sophisticated, because she has this calmness, this stillness in her whole movement, even though she looks feminine, even though she moves feminine. Now look at her hands. This is something that really amazed me, this hand positioning. How she holds this clutch in front of her body with this hand positioning that I have described and told you about in my last body language masterclass. I think this is one of the most feminine hand positionings that you can use, and she shows us how to hold something with this exact hand positioning. So because of this hand positioning, her arms are rather calm. Because of this, her whole presence looks very effortless, effortlessly elegant. And then when she enters this train, she continues with this presence. But now we come to her face. First of all, when she is in this train and she is basically looking and searching, she has a very controlled facial expression, so she doesn't look like this. She doesn't look in a hectic way. Her eyes are not nervous. She remains very still. And she only moves her eyes in a very subtle way. The same applies to the restaurant scene that we will come to later. But before that, let's look at another scene when she comes to Venice and enters the hotel lobby. Her shoulders are relaxed and her upper body is again very calm and controlled. Again here she uses her eyes in a very selective way. So she looks at this employee who, of course, gets mesmerized by her, but she doesn't look at everyone and she doesn't use her eyes in an extensive way. And again, the hands. I love this hand position. Even when she enters the hotel lobby, she has this very elegant hand position holding her clutch. In the restaurant scene, we can see more of her facial expressions. I observed that she rather uses micro expressions than big emotions. And that's something that gives her a lot of mystery. With micro expressions, I mean she reacts, but she doesn't overreact. She smiles, she tilts her head, she nods her head, she uses her eyes, but it is all very minimalistic, very subtle, and never exaggerated. So you see here that it is not necessary to have this very expressive face. It is something very beautiful and unique depending on the type of woman you are. And we see that in other feminine icons. But in the case of Angelina Jolie, in this calm, controlled confidence, in this calm feminine presence, it is not necessary. On the contrary, what you also see is very little hand movement. This is something that I observed because especially myself, when I'm talking about something that moves me or that I'm emotional about, I use my hands a lot. And if I don't pay too much attention, my hands are the Italian way, you know? But we see here that Angelina Jolie has a lot of control over her hands. It's not that she doesn't move them at all. She does underline certain words to express what she's saying, but it is again very controlled. Let's now move on to another beautiful scene, the ball and evening scene in Venice, where Angelina Jolie in her role enters this beautiful building where the ball takes place in an evening gown, and we can again see how her body language and her movement is in an evening attire. So of course we observe again her beautiful upright posture and her very calm, relaxed shoulders and upper body. We also see her very controlled steps, again using the sophisticated walking style. If you haven't seen my walking style video, I warmly recommend you, because there I am defining and explaining the 4 main feminine walking styles. I will link the video down below. You can also find out what your particular walking style is, or if you are a mix of several walking styles. We also see in this ball scene again her selective gaze. So the way she uses her eyes, selective, minimal, slow, controlled. And of course, every movement seems minimal. So it doesn't really have to be this bold, siren-like Marilyn Monroe movement. No, it can be something totally different and totally powerful and extremely attractive, as in Angelina Jolie's case. Now those scenes, I think, to my view, have already perfectly characterized all the aspects of her feminine body language. And now I have made a little summary for you so that you can take notes in your head or on paper as you like to remember those points and to implement them in your own life. I will explain to you how and what to pay attention to. So the main characteristics of Angelina Jolie's body language that I have figured out for you here is number 1. Stillness as power. Try to avoid unnecessary gestures. Angelina Jolie uses gestures, but only those who are necessary. That means if you are too hectic by nature, if you are moving your arms and your hands too much and in a too expressive way, try to minimize those gestures a little. Sometimes less is more, and especially if your femininity type tends towards this calm, more introverted, more shy, and also in many situations minimal movement will make you appear much more sophisticated and much more high status. So if this is something that you want to achieve, if you want to look more sophisticated, if you want to be perceived as more high status, then the first step is to use minimal gestures and minimize your movement. And it doesn't mean that you now have to be completely still or paralyzed. I mean, no hectic or unnecessary movement. Number 2, the calm, unreactive face. This has a lot to do with the psychological effects. Well, first of all, Angelina almost never uses exaggerated facial expressions. And I would also recommend you to avoid too exaggerated facial expressions. Now, This, of course, only if you admire the kind of feminine presence that Angelina Jolie exudes, and if your personality and femininity type fits this. Because if you are someone like Fran Fine, I have also made a very nice video about Fran Fine, you can also watch it. It's in my feminine icons list. Fran is the absolute opposite. She has bold, exaggerated facial expression. Even Sophia Loren uses more exaggerated facial expressions, reactions. But that's exactly the opposite of Angelina Jolie's body language, facial expressions. So here, as we are analyzing Angelina Jolie's body language, I can only recommend you to reduce those exaggerations and use your face in a little bit more elegant way. Meaning, you can of course react, you should react. Imagine you are a royal. Royals also use facial expressions, but they don't exaggerate them. That's the point. And the other point is no nervous reactions. Try to not react in a nervous way with your face. This also gives you a lot of emotional boundaries. So if you don't react immediately, the other person will not immediately know if you are so affected by them. And it will give you a lot of mystery and also control about your emotions. So while controlling your facial expressions a little bit with regards to reactions, you also control your emotions a little bit in a positive way, which protects you and gives you more of this mysterious aura if you find that alluring and also want to have a little bit of that. Point number 3 to remember is the directed but detached gaze. So what I mean by that is eye control. Angelina Jolie does use the direct gaze. She looks people in their eyes. Her gaze is even very intense. But it is not as playful as, for example, Marilyn Monroe's gaze. It is not as piercing, as intense as Sophia Loren's gaze. It is kind of a mix of intensity and calmness. And this is something that I think the guy in this movie that she looked at the hotel lobby, I think this gave him butterflies. I mean, you see his reaction. Of course, she is stunning and beautiful, but this gaze, the way she looked at him, even I felt something when I saw this gaze. And this is what I mean. It has something calm but still warm, but it is not needy. It is not searching. When she is looking for this guy that she picks later, Johnny Depp, in this train scene, her eyes are basically searching, but you don't see that they are really searching in a way. You see that she is kind of observing her environment, is looking around, but because her eyes are moving very slightly, this gives her this controlled, mysterious attraction. And now we come to point number 4, the elegant, sophisticated walking style. If you want to know more about this particular walking style, I have made a video about it. As I said, it will be linked down below, but I can't hardly describe it better. It basically is this walking style. So Angelina Jolie walks not too fast. She walks slowly. It is a minimal walking style. That means it is very usable in daily life. You can basically walk like that and nobody will say that you walk in an exaggerated way, as they would say when you walked like a femme fatale, which is theatrical, which is exaggerated, which simply doesn't fit normal situations. But when you walk in the sophisticated walking style, your hips move, but they don't move too much. Your hips swivel, but they don't swivel in an extreme way. Your upper body is calm and upright, and your hands are either in a controlled manner positioned, like Angelina's case, where she simply holds the clutch, or you hold a handbag or simply swing them in a controlled, calm way, in a natural way, while holding your whole body upright. I think that if you walk like that, you will be immediately perceived as self-confident and as classy. And now we come to point number 5, which is also visible throughout those scenes, and that's Angelina Jolie's posture. Of course, posture is also part of the walking style and also part of the minimal movement, but Here I wanted to point it out again because it is a stillness in the upper body that we can also see in other feminine icons, especially in Sophia Loren. But Sophia Loren has stillness in her upper body, but a lot of movement in her lower body. Angelina has stillness in her whole body. And her posture is in everything that she does. Sitting, standing, walking. Her posture always remains upright, and that's what you should also keep. Keep your shoulders rolled back and relaxed, your head elevated, your upper body calm. Here in Angelina Jolie's example, it is really one of the 5 big body language patterns that we observe throughout in interviews, in movies, in different roles. She always has this calm posture. So remember to always correct yourself whenever you walk by a mirror, whenever you remember, elevate your posture and feel sophisticated. If you are not this very extroverted type of woman, you can still be very attractive, very feminine and very alluring as a shy and introverted woman, because it is a different vibe of femininity. And if you express it the right way, with the right body language, with those tips that I gave you here, you can really become the best version of yourself. Angelina Jolie gives us great lessons for this calm, controlled, feminine confidence, which is a beautiful type of femininity. It is not loud, it is not femme fatale, it is not super playful, it is stillness, still feminine power. My dear ladies, I hope you liked the video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.